A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark, chapter 6, verses 45 to 52. Passage taken from the Message version of the Bible. As soon as the meal was finished, Jesus insists that the disciples get in the boat and go on ahead across to Bethsaida, where he dismissed the congregation. After sending them off, he climbed a mountain to pray. Late at night, the boat was far out at sea. Jesus was still by himself on land. He could see his men struggling with the odds, the wind having come up against them. At about 4 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came towards them, walking on the sea. He intended to go right by them. But when they saw him walking on the sea, they thought it was a ghost and screamed, scared out of their wits. Jesus was quick to comfort them. "Courage! It's me! Don't be afraid!" As soon as he climbed into the boat, the wind died down. They were stunned, shaking their heads, wondering what was going on. They didn't understand what he had done at the supper. None of this had yet penetrated their hearts. The Gospel of the Lord.
Reflections on the Gospel according to Mark, chapter 6, verses 45 to 52. The Gospel today presents the story of the disciples of Jesus on a boat facing the turbulent sea while Jesus walks towards them on the waters. The easiest explanation we have is of the image of the boat symbolizing the church, and the sea represents the world. Facing the scandals, hatred, and persecutions in the world, the church is worried. At a point of losing hope, they have the consoling presence of Jesus, and with his words reassuring them, "It is I, do not be afraid." Mark uses a lot of symbolisms while narrating this episode. He was writing this text for the Catechumens of Rome at a time when the church was facing persecutions and was threatened of extinction under the hostile Roman emperors. Mark wants to instill hope into the community of believers by telling them that in spite of the turbulence of the sea in the dark night, the boat of the church cannot be sunk because it is accompanied and protected by Jesus who can walk on the waters. The sea was considered the abode of evil, and the tempests were interpreted as the work of the devil. Hence, Jesus walking on the waters meant his victory over the powers of the evil. Yesterday, the Gospel spoke of Jesus feeding the 5,000 in a secluded area. Today, he climbs a mountain alone while the disciples are asked to get on the boat without Jesus. The whole episode of feeding the multitude and then Jesus moving alone up the mountain and the disciples left on the boat in the dark can be explained as the state of the church after the death and resurrection of Jesus. Through his sacrifice on the cross, he feeds the multitude with his body and blood. After his resurrection and ascension, Jesus is no more physically present with the disciples. He climbs up the mountain alone. Mountain in the Bible always referred to the abode of God's presence. The disciples, strengthened with the meal they had with Jesus, are now left alone to cross over the sea, braving the storms of turbulence of life. Yet, he does not leave them alone. He who has defeated the powers of the evil walks on the turbulence of the sea to reassure his frightened disciples. Courage, it is I. Do not be afraid. When the scandals, persecutions, and pains of daily life choke us up, the voice of the Lord reassures us. Do not be afraid. I am with you.